Bear Cub was locked in a lab experiment. What this baby did was shocking. Let us know where you're watching from. If you love my content, consider supporting it with a super thanks. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe. It'll help us to remain in touch with amazing people like you. In the shadow of Mount Rainier, where the ancient forest met the encroaching edges of civilization, the Evergreen Wildlife Research Center stood like a fortress of glass and steel. Its sleek architecture contrasted sharply with the untamed wilderness surrounding it. Inside, behind walls designed to keep secrets contained, a young wolf pup shivered in a sterile enclosure. Her silver-gray fur was dull under the harsh fluorescent lights, nothing like the lustrous coat she would have developed in the wild. Her amber eyes, wide with fear, darted around the unfamiliar environment as she huddled in the corner of her cage. Dr. Olivia Bennett checked her clipboard, making note of the pup's diminishing appetite. The wolf, officially labeled as Subject W-7, had been refusing food for 3 days now. She was the sole survivor of a litter discovered after their mother had been killed by poachers. At least, that was the official story circulated among the junior staff. The truth, known only to those with the highest clearance, was far more complex. Her vitals are still stable, but she's showing signs of depression, Olivia reported to Dr. Marcus Reed, the facility's director. The isolation protocol may be causing more harm than good. Marcus peered through the observation window, his face betraying no emotion. The protocol stays in place. This specimen is too valuable to risk any behavioral contamination. The genetic modifications are finally showing promising results. Outside the research center, nestled in a small cabin just beyond the facility's expansive property line, lived Liam Dawson and his 5-year-old daughter Willow. They had moved to this remote location 6 months ago after the death of Willow's mother. Liam had accepted a job as the facility's groundskeeper, hoping the change of scenery would help both of them heal. Willow was an unusual child, quiet, observant, with eyes that seemed to hold wisdom beyond her years. Since her mother's passing, she had barely spoken, communicating mostly through nods and gestures. Her pediatrician had assured Liam that it was a normal response to trauma, that she would speak again when she was ready. But as days turned into months, Liam's concern only grew. Each morning, Willow would watch the scientists arrive at the facility from her bedroom window. She would wave, though they rarely noticed her. One scientist, however, Olivia, always waved back, sometimes even stopping by the cabin with small gifts, a smooth river stone, a peculiar pine cone, a colorful leaf. These small gestures had created a silent bond between the woman and the child. On a crisp autumn morning, when the trees painted the landscape in fiery hues of orange and red, Willow sat at her window as usual. But today was different. A delivery truck had arrived at the facility, and in the commotion of unloading equipment, someone had forgotten to secure a side entrance. The heavy door swung gently in the breeze, unnoticed by the busy staff. Willow's eyes widened. In all the months they had lived there, she had never seen an open door to the mysterious building where her father trimmed hedges and fixed broken fixtures but never spoke about what happened inside. Something stirred within her. A curiosity, a calling. She glanced at her father, who was deeply focused on repairing the cabin's rain gutter. Without making a sound, Willow slipped out of the house and made her way toward the facility. Her small feet carried her quickly across the grassy expanse, her heart pounding with each step. The door was still ajar when she reached it, and Willow hesitated only briefly before squeezing through the narrow opening. The interior was a stark contrast to the vibrant forest outside, all whites and grays, with the sharp scent of disinfectant filling her nostrils. She wrinkled her nose but continued forward, drawn by an inexplicable force. The corridors were eerily quiet as she padded along, her presence undetected by the security cameras that were aimed too high to capture her small frame. She followed a faint sound, a whimpering that resonated with something deep within her heart. The sound led her to a laboratory where the wolf pup lay curled in her enclosure. The moment their eyes met, amber meeting Willow's deep brown, something profound and inexplicable passed between them. The pup's ears perked up, and for the first time in days she moved from her corner. Willow approached the glass enclosure, pressing her small palm against its cool surface. The pup mirrored her action, placing her paw against the glass where Willow's hand rested. A connection formed, transcending the barriers of species and circumstance. "You're sad," Willow whispered, her voice rusty from disuse. "Just like me." The pup tilted her head, as if understanding the words. She let out a soft whine, her tail giving the faintest wag. Neither the child nor the wolf noticed Olivia standing frozen in the doorway, witnessing this extraordinary interaction. The clipboard she held slipped from her fingers, clattering to the floor. The sound broke the spell. Willow turned, her eyes wide with fear at being discovered, but Olivia's expression wasn't angry. It was filled with wonder. "Willow," Olivia said softly, approaching slowly, "how did you get in here?" Willow pointed toward the corridor, unable to find her voice again. "That's okay," Olivia assured her, kneeling to meet the child's eyes. "But this is a place for grown-ups. There are things here that aren't safe for little ones." Willow shook her head vigorously and pointed to the wolf pup. "She needs me," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "She's calling me." Olivia's scientific mind struggled to process what she was witnessing. The wolf pup, who had been unresponsive for days, was now standing alert, eyes fixed on Willow, tail wagging with increasing enthusiasm. "How did you know she was here?" Olivia asked gently. Willow shrugged. "I heard her in my dreams." Before Olivia could respond, the heavy footsteps of security personnel echoed in the hallway. Someone had noticed the breach. Olivia made a split-second decision. "Come," she said, taking Willow's hand. "We need to get you back home before anyone finds you here." But as she tried to lead Willow away, the child resisted, looking back at the wolf pup with tears welling in her eyes. The pup began to whine, pawing desperately at the glass. "We'll come back," Olivia promised, though she knew it was likely a promise she couldn't keep. "But right now, we need to go." As they slipped out through a back exit, narrowly avoiding the security team, Olivia's mind raced with questions. The connection she had witnessed between Willow and Subject W7 defied scientific explanation. It was as if they recognized each other, as if they shared some unspoken language. What Olivia didn't know, what none of the scientists at the facility fully understood, was that their genetic experiments had awakened something ancient in the wolf pup, something that could reach out across the boundaries of consciousness to call for help. And somehow, in her grief-induced silence, Willow had become receptive to that call. Back at the cabin, Liam was frantic, searching for his daughter. When he saw her walking hand-in-hand with Olivia, relief washed over him, quickly followed by concern. "Willow!" "Where did you go?" he demanded, rushing to embrace her. "She was exploring near the facility," Olivia explained, careful not to reveal too much. "I found her by the perimeter fence." Liam's face paled. "You know you're not supposed to wander off," he told Willow sternly, though his voice trembled with residual fear. "You could have gotten hurt." "I'm sorry, Daddy," Willow said, her voice stronger than it had been in months. Liam's eyes widened at the sound of his daughter's voice. He looked at Olivia in amazement, but she merely smiled, keeping the mystery of what had truly transpired to herself. As night fell, Willow lay in her bed, gazing out at the facility glowing dimly in the distance. She could feel the wolf pup's presence in her mind, afraid, lonely, but now with a flicker of hope. "I'll help you," Willow whispered into the darkness. "I promise." Miles away, in her sterile enclosure, the wolf pup lifted her head, as if hearing the child's words. She let out a small howl, not of despair but of connection. The sound echoed through the empty laboratory, unheard by human ears but felt by a little girl drifting off to sleep with new purpose in her heart. What neither of them knew was that their unexpected bond had set in motion events that would shake the very foundations of the Evergreen Wildlife Research Center and reveal secrets that some would kill to protect. In the heart of the forest, as the moon cast silver light through the trees, something ancient stirred, awakened by the connection between a child with a silent voice and a wolf with modified genes. The whispers of wild hearts had begun, and the world would never be the same. The following morning, Olivia arrived at the facility earlier than usual, her mind preoccupied with what she had witnessed. She headed straight to Subject W7's enclosure, half expecting to find the wolf pup back in her corner, yesterday's animation nothing more than a fluke. Instead, she found the pup pacing expectantly, ears perked forward, eyes fixed on the door as if waiting for someone. When she saw Olivia, her tail drooped in obvious disappointment. "She's not coming today," Olivia whispered, placing her hand against the glass. The pup turned away, retreating to her water dish. Olivia pulled up the pup's file on her tablet, scanning through pages of genetic data and behavioral notes. Subject W7 was part of a controversial project aimed at enhancing communication pathways between different species' brains. The ultimate goal, classified at the highest level, was to create animals that could be controlled remotely for various applications, from military operations to search and rescue. But something had gone differently with this pup. Instead of becoming more receptive to human commands, she had shown an unprecedented ability to project her emotions. The scientists had documented strange phenomena, lab technicians reporting vivid dreams about wolves, security guards feeling inexplicable sadness when passing her enclosure. One researcher even claiming to have heard whispers in his mind. All these incidents had been dismissed as coincidence or imagination, until now. What Olivia had seen between Willow and the pup suggested something far more profound was happening. "Dr. Bennett," Marcus Reed's voice cut through her thoughts. "You're here early." Olivia quickly closed the file. "Just checking on W7. She seems more alert today." Marcus studied the pup with calculating eyes. "The new treatment must be working then. Good. The Defense Department representatives are visiting next week, and we need demonstrable results." Olivia felt a chill run down her spine. "Sir, I've been reviewing the data, and I think we need to reconsider the isolation protocol. There are indications that social interaction might actually enhance the communication abilities we're trying to develop." Marcus's expression hardened. "The protocol remains unchanged. We can't risk contamination of the results at this stage." He turned to leave, then paused. "And Dr. Bennett, remember your confidentiality agreement. This project doesn't exist outside these walls." After he left, Olivia stood motionless, torn between scientific duty and the growing unease in her conscience. She glanced at the wolf pup, who was watching her intently, as if trying to communicate something urgent. "What are you trying to tell us?" Olivia whispered. At the cabin, Willow was experiencing something extraordinary. While eating breakfast, she suddenly dropped her spoon, her eyes unfocused. "Willow?" Liam asked, concerned. "Are you feeling okay?" Willow didn't respond. In her mind, she was seeing strange images: metal bars, bright lights, hands in latex gloves. She could feel fear and confusion that wasn't her own, and beneath it all, a longing, a desperate need for connection. "She's scared," Willow finally said, blinking back to awareness. "The wolf is scared." Liam frowned, setting down his coffee. "Wolf? What wolf are you talking about, sweetie?" "The one in the building where Dr. Olivia works. She's all alone, and they're doing things to her." Willow's eyes filled with tears. She wants to go home to the forest, but they won't let her. Liam's frown deepened. He had heard rumors about animal research at the facility but had dismissed them as gossip. His job kept him entirely outside, maintaining the grounds without clearance to enter the building. Now, he wondered what was really happening behind those walls and how his daughter could possibly know about it. "Willow, did Dr. Olivia tell you about a wolf?" he asked carefully. Willow shook her head. "Number? The wolf told me herself." Before Liam could respond, a knock at the door interrupted them. It was Olivia, looking troubled. "I'm sorry to bother you so early," she said when Liam opened the door. "I just wanted to check on Willow after yesterday." Liam invited her in, watching as Willow's face lit up at the sight of the scientist. "Doctor? Olivia, I saw her again, in my head. She's really scared today because the man with the gray hair was there," Willow exclaimed. Olivia froze, her eyes widening. She knelt in front of Willow. "What man with gray hair, Willow?" "The one who talks about protocols and demonstrations. He makes the wolf feel cold inside." Olivia and Liam exchanged alarmed glances. There was no way Willow could have known about Marcus Reed or the terminology he used. "Liam, could I speak with you privately?" Olivia asked, her voice strained. Once they were out of Willow's earshot, Olivia spoke in hushed tones. "Something impossible is happening. Your daughter is somehow connecting with one of our research subjects, a wolf pup with genetically modified neural pathways." Liam's face hardened. "What kind of research are you doing in there?" "I can't tell you everything. I've signed multiple non-disclosure agreements, but I can tell you that this particular project involves enhancing communication between species." She hesitated. "What I saw yesterday between Willow and the wolf pup defies everything we thought we knew about the project's potential." "Are you saying my daughter is—" "What?" "Telepathically communicating with a wolf?" Liam asked incredulously. "I know how it sounds," Olivia admitted. "But how else would she know about Dr. Reed or what he said this morning? No one but me witnessed that conversation, and it happened less than an hour ago." Liam ran a hand through his hair, struggling to process what he was hearing. "So, what happens now?" "I don't know," Olivia confessed. "But I'm growing increasingly concerned about the ethics of this project, especially with what I'm seeing between Willow and the pup. I think there's something much deeper happening than we ever anticipated." Their conversation was interrupted by the sound of breaking glass. They rushed back to find Willow standing amid the shards of a fallen picture frame, her eyes unfocused, body trembling. "They're hurting her," Willow whispered, her voice not entirely her own. "They're putting something in her head. Make them stop." As Liam moved to comfort his daughter, Olivia's phone rang. It was the lab. Subject W7 was undergoing an emergency procedure, the implantation of a neural monitoring device. Without the pup's unusual connection to Willow, no one would have known that beneath the sterile medical procedure, the animal was experiencing terror and pain that wouldn't show in any of their measurements. But now, through the eyes of a child, the true cost of their science was being revealed. And deep in the forest surrounding the facility, other wolves began to lift their heads, as if listening to a distant call that had been silent for too long. The whispers were spreading, growing stronger, connecting wild hearts across the divide that humans had created between themselves and the natural world. The reckoning was coming, and it would begin with a silver wolf pup and a little girl who had found her voice. The sun cast long shadows across the forest floor as Olivia hurried back to the facility, her mind racing. What she had witnessed in the cabin had shaken her scientific worldview to its core. She had dedicated her life to understanding the capabilities of the animal mind. But this connection between Willow and Subject W7 transcended everything she thought she knew. She arrived to find the lab in a state of controlled chaos. The procedure on the wolf pup had been completed, but something had gone wrong. The pup was physically stable, but in a state of extreme distress, howling and throwing herself against the walls of her enclosure despite the sedatives in her system. "What happened?" Olivia demanded, rushing to the observation window. Dr. Chen, the neurologist who had performed the procedure, looked bewildered. Everything went according to protocol, but as soon as she started coming out of anesthesia, she went into this state. It's like she's having some kind of panic response, but her vitals don't match the behavior. Olivia watched the pup's desperate movements, remembering Willow's words. They're putting something in her head. Make them stop. The child had somehow experienced the pup's terror in real time from miles away. "Have you informed Dr. Reed?" she asked. "He's on his way, Doctor," Chen replied. "He wants a full report ready by the time he arrives." Olivia made a decision. She pulled out her phone and texted Liam, "How is Willow now?" The response came quickly. Calmer, but exhausted, she fell asleep on the couch. "What's happening, Olivia?" She hesitated before typing. "The connection is stronger than I thought. Whatever happens to the wolf, Willow feels it. This goes beyond anything we expected from the research." She put her phone away as doctor. Reed strode into the lab, his face tense with controlled anger. "Explain this," he demanded, gesturing toward the distressed wolf pup. Before Dr. Chen could respond, Olivia stepped forward. "Sir, I believe we're witnessing an unprecedented neural connection. The modification to W7's communication pathways has created something we didn't anticipate, a kind of telepathic bond." "With whom?" Reed asked sharply. Olivia hesitated. She couldn't bring herself to reveal Willow's involvement. "It's possible she's connecting with wild wolves in the area. The forest has several packs. Our security reported unusual wolf activity near the perimeter last night." Reed's eyes narrowed. "That's impossible. The modifications we made were specifically designed to enhance human-animal communication, not animal-to-animal. Perhaps we don't fully understand the ramifications of what we've done," Olivia suggested carefully. "We're tampering with fundamental aspects of neural architecture that have evolved over millions of years." Reed dismissed her concern with a wave of his hand. "Increase the isolation protocols. No one enters that room without my explicit permission. And double the security around the perimeter. If there are wolves approaching our facility, I want to know about it." As he walked away, Dr. Chen whispered to Olivia, "There's something else. The neural imaging we did during the procedure showed unusual activity in areas associated with long-distance communication in wild wolves, areas we weren't targeting in our modifications." Olivia's pulse quickened. "What does that mean?" "It means," Dr. Chen said quietly, "that we might have accidentally enhanced natural abilities that were already there, abilities science has never fully documented or understood." At the cabin, Willow woke with a start, her forehead damp with sweat. Liam, who had been watching her anxiously, immediately moved to her side. "Are you okay, sweetheart?" he asked, brushing hair from her face. Willow nodded slowly. "She's still scared, but not as much now. She knows I'm here." Her eyes, when they met her father's, held a wisdom that sent chills down his spine. "Daddy, there are others now. More voices in the forest. They heard her calling." Liam tried to maintain a calm expression despite his growing concern. "What are they saying, these voices?" "They're coming to help," Willow said simply. "The old ones remember when they could talk to people, before people forgot how to listen." That night, as darkness enveloped the forest, the security team at the Evergreen Wildlife Research Center reported an unusual phenomenon. Wolves had gathered at the perimeter fence, dozens of them sitting silently, their eyes reflecting the facility's lights. They made no attempt to breach the fence. They simply watched, as if waiting. Inside, Subject W7 had finally calmed. She lay in her enclosure, no longer frantic but alert, her amber eyes fixed on the ceiling vent that carried the distant scent of her wild kin. Olivia, working late, felt a prickling sensation at the back of her neck, as if she too were being watched. She looked up from her computer to find the wolf pup staring directly at her. "What are you trying to tell us?" she whispered again, half to herself. To her shock, a voice, not quite human, not quite animal, seemed to answer in her mind, "Free us!" Olivia jerked backward, knocking over her chair. The voice had been so clear, so distinct. She looked around wildly, but she was alone in the lab with the wolf pup, who continued to watch her with those intelligent amber eyes. "This is impossible," Olivia muttered, trying to rationalize what had just happened. Stress, fatigue, the power of suggestion after witnessing Willow's apparent connection. There were many explanations that made more sense than actually hearing a wolf's thoughts. But, as she gathered her things to leave, she couldn't shake the feeling that something fundamental had shifted. Not just in the wolf pup or in Willow, but in the very fabric of understanding between humans and the natural world. Outside the facility, the wolves remained, their silent vigil unbroken. And in her bed at the cabin, Willow smiled in her sleep, dreaming of running through the forest on 4 paws, the moon lighting her path, her pack surrounding her with love and protection. The barrier between species, between the wild and the tamed, between science and something older and more mysterious, was thinning. And through that thinning veil, ancient knowledge was beginning to flow once more. In the heart of the facility, secured servers hummed, storing data that documented the unexpected results of Project Echo, the code name for the wolf communication experiment. But what the data couldn't capture was the spiritual awakening taking place. The reconnection of bonds severed centuries ago when humans chose to see themselves as separate from, rather than part of, the natural world. That reconnection had found its conduits, a wolf pup with modified genes and a little girl with an open heart. Together, they were becoming the bridge between 2 worlds that desperately needed to understand each other once more. Dawn broke over the mountains, painting the sky in gentle hues of pink and gold. The wolves that had gathered around the facility through the night had melted back into the forest, leaving only paw prints in the soft earth as evidence of their vigil. Inside the research center, scientists arrived for the morning shift, unaware of the extraordinary events unfolding around them. Olivia had barely slept, her mind replaying the voice she'd heard, or thought she'd heard, in the lab. After tossing and turning for hours, she had finally given in to an impulse that felt more like a compulsion. She needed to bring Willow and the wolf pup together again. The plan she was formulating was not only against facility protocols but potentially illegal. If caught, she would lose her job, possibly face criminal charges for endangering a child and compromising a classified research project. Yet something deeper than professional ethics was driving her now, a sense that she was witnessing the beginning of something profound, something that could change humanity's relationship with the natural world. At the cabin, Liam poured himself another cup of coffee, watching Willow through the window as she sat cross-legged in the yard, eyes closed, face tilted toward the sun. She had been like that for nearly an hour, barely moving, a small smile playing at the corners of her lips. When Olivia's car pulled up the dirt driveway, Liam felt equal parts relief and apprehension. He needed answers, but feared what those answers might mean for his daughter. "She's been like this all morning," he told Olivia as she approached, gesturing toward Willow. "It's like she's in some kind of trance." Olivia knelt beside the child, careful not to disturb her. "Willow," she called softly, "can you hear me?" Willow's eyes fluttered open, focusing on Olivia with surprising clarity. "The old wolf came to me in my dreams," she said. "He says you heard her too. You heard Luna." "Luna?" Olivia repeated, confused. "That's her real name, not W7. She's Luna, daughter of Silvermoon and Storm. She has a family waiting for her." Olivia felt goosebumps rise on her arms. "How do you know that, Willow?" "The old wolf told me. He's the guardian of the forest. He says—" Willow paused, as if listening to a distant voice. "He says humans have forgotten the old language, the one we all used to share. But Luna can speak it because of what you did to her brain, and I can hear it because—" she touched her chest, "because my heart is open after Mommy went to heaven." Liam made a choked sound behind them. Olivia turned to see tears in his eyes. "I'm not crazy, Daddy," Willow said earnestly. "The wolves are real. They want to help Luna, but they need our help too." Olivia took a deep breath. "Liam, what I'm about to suggest goes against everything I'm supposed to stand for as a scientist and an employee of the research center. But after what I experienced last night, I believe your daughter. Something extraordinary is happening, and I think Willow and the pup, Luna, are at the center of it." "What are you suggesting?" Liam asked warily. "I want to bring them together again, properly this time. Not just through a glass barrier, but in the same room. I need to document this connection, to understand it." She hesitated. "And I believe Luna's distress will continue unless she has direct contact with Willow. You want to bring my 5-year-old daughter into a lab to interact with a wolf?" Liam's voice rose in disbelief. "A genetically modified wolf?" "Luna won't hurt me, Daddy," Willow interjected with certainty. "She's my friend." "It would be controlled, supervised," Olivia assured him. "I can arrange it during the night shift when minimal staff is present. I have access to the security systems." "This is insane," Liam muttered, running a hand through his hair. "Completely insane." "Perhaps," Olivia acknowledged. "But think about it, Liam. If what we're witnessing is real, if your daughter can genuinely communicate with this wolf, isn't that something worth understanding? Something that could change how we see our relationship with animals, with nature itself." Liam looked at his daughter, so small yet so certain. Since losing her mother, he had watched her retreat into silence, lost in grief too profound for her young mind to process. Now, for the first time in months, there was light in her eyes again, purpose in her voice. "If, and this is a big if, I were to consider this," he said slowly, "I would need to be there the entire time. And at the first sign of danger, we leave. No questions, no arguments." "Of course," Olivia agreed. "Tonight, after midnight. The night security guard owes me a favor. I can ensure we have 20 minutes of unmonitored access to the lab." As they finalized their plans, none of them noticed the dark SUV parked at the edge of the forest road, or the man inside taking photographs of their meeting. Back at the facility, Dr. Reed reviewed the security footage from the previous night, his expression grim as he watched the wolves gathering at the perimeter. This was not the outcome the Defense Department was looking for. They wanted controlled communication, predictable results, not some mystical connection with wild wolves that couldn't be quantified or weaponized. He picked up his phone. "Increase security for tonight, and I want Subject W7 moved to the secure lab in Sublevel B." He paused, listening to the protest on the other end. "I don't care what Dr. Bennett's notes say about stress levels. That animal is not where it's supposed to be in terms of development. We need to accelerate the program." As he ended the call, his computer pinged with an incoming email. It contained several photographs, Olivia kneeling beside Willow in the yard, the three of them deep in conversation. The subject line read, "Breach of Protocol, Project Echo." Reed's face darkened. So Dr. Bennett had gone rogue, involving civilians in classified research. Worse, she was involving a child, a complication that could bring unwanted attention to the project if word got out. He reached for his phone again. "Change of plans. I want a team ready tonight, full containment protocol." Night fell over the forest, the facility's lights creating an artificial glow against the darkness. At precisely midnight, Olivia disabled the security cameras in the corridor leading to the lab where Luna was kept. What she didn't know was that Reed had already moved the wolf pup to a different location, and that security was waiting to intercept them. As Olivia, Liam, and Willow made their way through the silent facility, the air felt charged with anticipation. Willow walked between them, her small hand trustingly in her father's, her eyes wide but unafraid. "She knows we're coming," Willow whispered. "She's trying to tell me something important, but they moved her somewhere dark. She's scared." Olivia frowned. Luna shouldn't have been moved without her knowledge. A sense of unease crept up her spine. They turned the corner to the lab and found the door ajar, the room beyond dark. Olivia's unease deepened into alarm. "Wait here," she told Liam. But Willow pulled free of her father's hand, darting into the darkened lab before either adult could stop her. "Luna!" she called out, her voice echoing in the empty space. Lights suddenly flooded the room, momentarily blinding them. When their vision cleared, they found themselves surrounded by security personnel. In the center of the room stood Dr. Reed, his expression cold. "Dr. Bennett," he said, his voice dangerously calm. "I believe you've violated at least 7 different protocols tonight, not to mention federal law by bringing unauthorized civilians into a classified facility." His gaze shifted to Willow. "And endangering a child in the process." "Where is she?" Willow demanded, unintimidated by the adults towering over her. "What did you do with Luna?" Reed's eyebrows rose. "Luna? Is that what you've named the specimen, Dr. Bennett?" "I didn't name her," Olivia said, stepping protectively in front of Willow. "That's her real name, according to her family." "Her family," Reed repeated with a dismissive laugh. "You've clearly lost objectivity, Doctor. The specimen is government property, part of a multi-million-dollar research project. It doesn't have a real name or a family." "You're wrong," Willow said, her voice stronger than anyone had heard it before. "Luna belongs to the forest, and the forest is coming for her." As if summoned by her words, the power in the facility suddenly failed, plunging everything into darkness. Emergency lights flickered on, casting eerie shadows across the faces of the startled adults. In the distance, wolf howls pierced the night. Not just 1 or 2, but dozens, a chorus that seemed to surround the facility on all sides. and in sublevel B, where Luna had been moved. Security cameras captured the moment when the young wolf pup, previously docile under heavy sedation, suddenly stood up in her enclosure, head raised, answering the call of her wild kin with a howl of her own. The whispers of wild hearts had become a symphony, impossible to ignore. And caught in the crescendo were humans who would have to choose, continue to stand apart from nature, or remember how to listen to the wisdom it had always offered. The reckoning had begun. In the seconds following the power failure, chaos erupted in the lab. Security personnel moved with practiced efficiency despite the dim emergency lighting, forming a protective circle around Dr. Reed whilst speaking urgently into their communications devices. "Sir, we need to evacuate," the head of security insisted. The backup generator should have kicked in by now. Reed ignored him, his attention fixed on Willow. The child stood perfectly still amid the commotion, her head tilted slightly as if listening to something only she could hear. "How did you know the power would fail?" Reed demanded, stepping toward her. Liam immediately placed himself between Reed and his daughter. "Stay away from her," he warned, his voice low with protective fury. Olivia seized the moment of distraction to access a nearby computer terminal that was still functioning on emergency power. Her security clearance granted her access to the facility's layout, including the location where Luna had been moved. "Sublevel B, northeastern quadrant," she murmured to herself, memorizing the route. Outside, the wolf chorus grew louder, more insistent. Security reports crackled over radios. The wolves were no longer simply gathering at the perimeter. They were systematically testing the fence, applying pressure at different points, displaying a level of coordination that defied natural behavior patterns. "Sir," a security officer reported to Reed, "the wildlife team is saying this isn't normal pack behavior. It's like they're organized." Reed's face hardened. "Get the tranquilizer rifles from the armory. I want every available agent positioned around the perimeter. Shoot any wolf that comes within 20 yards of the fence." "And what about them?" The security chief gestured toward Olivia, Liam, and Willow. "Detain them in the secure conference room," Reed ordered. "We'll deal with this breach of protocol after we've contained the immediate threat." As two guards moved to escort them out, Willow suddenly clutched her head, crying out in pain. "They're hurting her! They're putting the wires in her head again!" Liam gathered his daughter into his arms, looking accusingly at Olivia. "What is she talking about?" Before Olivia could respond, Willow's eyes rolled back, and her small body went limp. At the same moment, alarms blared throughout the facility. "Containment breach in sublevel B," a voice announced over the emergency system. "All personnel initiate emergency protocol, Theta 7. Reed's phone buzzed with an incoming video call. The neurologist's panic-stricken face appeared on the screen. "Sir, W7 is convulsing. Her neural readings are off the charts. It's like her brain is trying to process multiple inputs simultaneously." Behind the scientist, they could see Luna thrashing in her enclosure, foam gathering at the corners of her mouth, her body arching unnaturally. "Sedate her immediately," Reed commanded. "Maximum dose." "We've already tried," the neurologist responded, his voice rising with panic. "It's not having any effect. And sir, the neural monitoring device, it's showing activity patterns I've never seen before. It's as if—" He was cut off by a crash as Luna hurled herself against the enclosure wall with enough force to crack the reinforced glass. "Get out of there now!" Reed shouted, but the screen had already gone dark. In Liam's arms, Willow began to convulse, mirroring Luna's seizure. Her eyes snapped open, but they were changed, the pupils elongated slightly, the irises tinged with an amber hue that was eerily similar to the wolf pup's. "What's happening to her?" Liam cried, struggling to hold his seizing daughter. Olivia rushed to them, her scientific training warring with the impossible reality before her. "The connection between them is strengthening," she said, helping Liam lower Willow to the floor to prevent her from injuring herself during the seizure. "Whatever they're doing to Luna is affecting Willow too." Reed stared at the child in growing horror and fascination. "This is impossible," he muttered. "The neural modifications were never designed to create a human-animal neural link." "Maybe that's because the link was already there," Olivia challenged, her voice thick with emotion. "Maybe we didn't create anything. We just amplified what nature had already established, connections our science was too limited to recognize." A security officer burst into the room. "Sir, the wolves have breached the east perimeter fence. And you need to see this. It's all over the news." He held up his tablet, showing a live news broadcast. The reporter stood at a safe distance from the facility, but behind her the scene was clearly visible. Wolves emerging from the forest, dozens of them, moving with purpose toward the research center. But what had caught the media's attention wasn't just the unusual wolf behavior. It was the other animals joining them. Deer moved alongside their natural predators without fear. Eagles and ravens circled overhead. Even smaller creatures, foxes, raccoons, and rabbits, were part of this unprecedented procession. The natural order seemed suspended, replaced by a united purpose that transcended the normal boundaries between species. "It's an all-hands meeting," Willow whispered, her seizure subsiding as suddenly as it had begun. Her voice had a distant quality, as if part of her was elsewhere. "The old ones remember a time when all creatures spoke the same language, before humans forgot how to listen." The lights flickered again, and the backup generators failed completely, plunging the facility into darkness save for the emergency lights. In that moment of darkness, Olivia made her decision. "Liam," she said urgently, "take Willow and follow me. I know where Luna is. We have to bring them together. It might be the only way to stop this." "Are you insane?" Reed hissed. "That animal is dangerous, even more so now that it's in distress. You can't possibly think—" "With all due respect, Doctor." "Reed," Olivia cut him off. "Your scientific assumptions have been proven wrong at every turn in this situation. This isn't about your research anymore. It's about preventing whatever cataclysm might be unfolding if we don't act." Before Reed could respond, a deafening chorus of howls rose from all directions, so loud it seemed to vibrate through the very walls of the facility. Equipment began to malfunction, screens flickering with static, mechanical doors opening and closing randomly. The fire suppression system activating WIT. "It's some kind of electromagnetic pulse," a technician reported, checking readings on a battery-powered device. "But it's coming from the animals, from the wolves." In the confusion, Olivia grabbed Liam's arm. "Now," she whispered, "while everyone's distracted." Clutching Willow between them, they slipped away from the security personnel, whose attention was divided between the approaching animal army and the facility's escalating malfunctions. Using her emergency access, Olivia led them through service corridors rarely traveled, making their way steadily toward sublevel B. As they descended deeper into the facility, the air grew colder, the lighting dimmer. Willow had fallen into a trance-like state, her eyes half closed, but her feet moving purposefully, as if guided by an invisible force. "She's calling me," the child murmured. "She's so scared. They put something in her brain that hurts, that makes her hear the wrong voices." They reached a heavy security door marked Restricted Area, Project Echo. It required both a keycard and a retinal scan, security measures Olivia could provide, but which would absolutely alert security to their location. "We'll be locked in as soon as we enter," she warned Liam. "And they'll know exactly where we are." Liam looked down at his daughter, her face peaceful despite the chaos unfolding around them, then back at Olivia. "Do it," he said firmly. "Whatever connection exists between Willow and this wolf, Luna, it's already put them both in danger. We need to understand it, not fight it." Olivia nodded and placed her eye against the scanner. The door unlocked with a heavy metallic thunk, sliding open to reveal a laboratory far more advanced than the upper levels. The walls were lined with state-of-the-art monitoring equipment, much of it bearing military insignias that confirmed Olivia's suspicions about the project's true purpose. In the center of the room, surrounded by a circle of scientists working frantically at control panels, was Luna. The wolf pup was contained in a reinforced enclosure, but she was no longer seizing. Instead, she stood perfectly still, her amber eyes fixed on the door as if she had been expecting them. The scientists looked up in surprise as Olivia, Liam, and Willow entered. One of them, Dr. Chen, moved toward them with relief evident on his face. "Dr. Bennett, thank God," he said in a hushed voice. "Something's happening, something none of our models predicted. The neural implant we installed is showing unprecedented activity. It's as if the subject is broadcasting." "Her name is Luna," Willow said clearly, stepping forward. "And she wants the thing out of her head." The scientists stared at the child, then at Olivia. "This is the girl you reported?" Dr. Chen asked quietly. "The one who shares the connection?" Olivia nodded. "We need to let them interact directly. Whatever is happening with the wolves outside, with all the animals, I believe it's connected to the distress Luna is experiencing. If we can calm her—" Dr. Chen hesitated, glancing at his colleagues. Dr. Reed expressly forbade— "Dr. Reed doesn't understand what's happening here," Olivia interrupted. "None of us do. But I know that fighting this connection isn't working. We need to honor it, try to understand it." A loud crash from above made everyone flinch. The facility was under assault, and the barricades wouldn't hold forever against the determined wildlife outside. "Let me see her," Willow pleaded, moving toward Luna's enclosure. "Please, I can help." Dr. Chen looked at the monitors displaying Luna's vital signs. Elevated heart rate, stress hormones off the charts, neural activity unlike anything they had documented before. Then he looked at the child, so small yet so certain. "Open the enclosure," he said finally to his stunned colleagues. "But be ready to intervene at the first sign of aggression." Scientists moved to protest, but the decision was made. With trembling hands, a technician entered the command to unlock Luna's enclosure. The glass barrier slid open with a soft hiss. Everyone in the room held their breath. Security personnel readying tranquilizer guns, scientists poised to record whatever happened next. Liam made a move to stop his daughter, but Olivia gently restrained him. "Trust her," she whispered. "Trust what's happening here." Willow walked slowly toward the wolf pup, her steps measured, hands relaxed at her sides. Luna watched her approach, ears forward, body tense but not threatening. When they were just feet apart, Willow stopped and held out her small hand, palm up, in a gesture of peace. "I hear you," she said softly. "We all hear you now." Luna took a tentative step forward, then another, until her muzzle gently touched Willow's outstretched hand. A visible shudder ran through both of them at the contact, an electric current of connection that seemed to expand outward, filling the room with a palpable energy. And then, to the astonishment of everyone watching, Luna lowered herself to the ground in a clear gesture of submission, rolling onto her side to expose her vulnerable belly, a sign of absolute trust that wolves rarely showed even to their own pack members. Willow knelt beside her, placing her hand gently on the spot where the neural implant had been inserted. "It hurts here," she said. "The voices it makes you hear aren't the right ones. They're trying to make you obey the wrong alpha." Dr. Chen approached slowly, medical kit in hand. "The implant is causing her pain," he confirmed, examining the slight swelling at the insertion site. "And it's likely malfunctioning due to whatever electromagnetic phenomena the wolves outside are generating." "Can you remove it?" Olivia asked. Dr. Chen nodded reluctantly. It wasn't designed for permanent installation, but removing it now without proper preparation— "Do it," Willow said with surprising authority. "She says it's poisoning her mind, and through her it's poisoning the old language." Before Dr. Chen could respond, the facility's emergency system crackled to life. Dr. Reed's voice echoed through the lab, tight with controlled panic. "Attention, all personnel. The perimeter has been breached. Implement full lockdown and prepare for facility evacuation. Security teams, converge on Sublevel B. I repeat, all security personnel to Sublevel B immediately." The scientists exchanged alarmed glances. Their location had been compromised. "We don't have much time," Olivia said urgently. "Dr. Chen, please, remove the implant now, before security arrives." Dr. Chen hesitated only briefly before nodding to his medical team. "Prepare for emergency extraction, minimal sedation. We can't risk destabilizing her further with unknown drug interactions given her current state." As the medical team worked quickly to prepare for the procedure, Liam knelt beside his daughter. "Willow, are you sure about this? That wolf is still wild, still dangerous." Willow shook her head, her hand never leaving Luna's fur. "She's not dangerous to me, Daddy. She's my friend. We understand each other." She looked up at him with those strangely altered eyes, still her own, yet somehow ancient with knowing. "The old wolves say humans and animals used to be friends, long ago. They shared the world. But humans got scared of the wild and tried to control it instead of listening to it." Luna made a soft whining sound, nudging Willow's hand with her nose. "She says the forest remembers when humans were part of it, not separate," Willow continued, interpreting the wolf's communication in a way that felt both impossible and utterly natural. "The old language is still there inside all of us. The scientists just woke it up in Luna, and Luna woke it up in me." Dr. Chen approached with a surgical tray. "We're ready," he said, "but the pup needs to remain still. In a normal situation, we would use restraints, but given her distress levels—" "She'll stay still," Willow assured him, bending to whisper in Luna's ear. The wolf pup immediately settled, laying her head in Willow's lap with complete trust. The procedure itself took only minutes. The extraction of the neural implant from just beneath Luna's skull, a small device no larger than a grain of rice, but packed with technology designed to influence the wolf's brain patterns. The moment it was removed, a visible wave of relief passed through Luna's body, her muscles relaxing, her breathing deepening. Simultaneously, the electromagnetic disturbances throughout the facility began to subside. The lights stabilized, equipment returned to normal function, and the chaotic alarms quieted. And outside, witnesses would later report, the assembled wildlife began to disperse. Not in panic or disorder, but with purpose, as if a message had been received and understood. The wolves were the last to leave, lingering at the edge of the forest as if waiting for something, or someone. In the lab, Luna raised her head from Willow's lap, her amber eyes clear and alert. The scientists gasped collectively as they watched the readings on their monitors, brainwaves normalizing, stress hormones decreasing, but with an underlying pattern of neural activity unlike anything they had documented in canids before. Extraordinary, Dr. Chen breathed, studying the real-time images of Luna's brain. The areas associated with communication are lighting up like a Christmas tree. But it's not just simple response patterns. There's complexity here that suggests actual language processing. Because it is language, Willow said simply, just not the kind humans remember how to speak. The door to the lab burst open, and security personnel flooded in, Dr. Reed at their center. His face contorted in shock and rage at the scene before him. The open enclosure, the wolf pup peacefully resting her head on a child's lap, the extracted implant lying in a surgical tray. "What have you done?" he demanded, his voice shaking. "Do you have any idea of the consequences of your actions, the setback to the project, the national security implications?" But as he moved to approach, Luna raised her head, fixing him with a steady gaze that stopped him in his tracks. There was something in those amber eyes that transcended animal instinct, an intelligence, a presence, a being that recognized another and made its own assessments. And for the first time in his distinguished scientific career, Dr. Marcus Reed felt himself being judged by a creature he had considered merely a test subject and found wanting. The momentary standoff was broken by a new commotion from above. Heavy footsteps approached, and a team of individuals in dark suits entered the lab. Their leader, a stern-faced woman with silver-streaked hair and an air of absolute authority, surveyed the scene with narrowed eyes. "Dr. Reed," she said, her voice clipped. "The Defense Department is extremely concerned about the events unfolding here, particularly the fact that your contained research project has somehow led to footage of wolves, deer, and birds staging what appears to be an organized protest around your facility, footage that is currently going viral worldwide." Reed paled. "Director Hammond, I can explain. I sincerely doubt that." She cut him off, turning her attention to Olivia. "Dr. Bennett, I presume. Your name has appeared in several internal reports regarding ethical concerns about this project." Olivia straightened, her hand protectively on Willow's shoulder. "Yes, Director. And I believe what we're witnessing here is proof that those concerns were valid. The neural modifications we've made didn't create something new. They awakened something ancient, a form of communication between species that humans have forgotten or chosen to ignore." Director Hammond's expression revealed nothing as she approached the unlikely pair, child and wolf, at the center of the unfolding drama. Luna watched her warily, but made no aggressive move, her body language communicating curiosity rather than fear. "And you believe this child can communicate with the wolf?" Hammond asked, her skepticism evident. "Not just with Luna," Willow said before anyone could answer for her. "With all of them. The wolves, the deer, the birds. They're all speaking the old language. Humans used to speak it too, back when we remembered we were part of the forest, not separate from it." Hammond studied the child for a long moment, then turned to her team. "I want all data from this project secured, all personnel debriefed, media containment protocols activated immediately." She paused, her gaze returning to Willow and Luna. "And I want these two transferred to our research facility in Colorado. The Interspecies Communication Division should see this." "No," Liam stepped forward, his voice firm despite his fear. "My daughter is not a research subject. And after what we've seen here, I don't believe Luna should be either." Hammond's eyebrows rose slightly. "Mr. Dawson, Liam Dawson. I'm the groundskeeper here and Willow's father. Mr. Dawson, I understand your concern, but what's happening here could have profound implications for national security, for science, for our understanding of consciousness itself. Exactly, Olivia interjected, which is why it needs to be approached with reverence and respect, not as a weapons development program or a controlled experiment. She gestured toward the discarded neural implant. We tried to force this communication into channels we could control, and the natural world literally rose up in protest. Perhaps that's a lesson we should heed. Hammond considered this, her calculated gaze moving from the implant to Luna, to Willow, and finally settling on the monitors still displaying the wolf pup's extraordinary brain activity. The forest has been patient with humans for a long time, Willow said into the silence, her voice carrying a wisdom far beyond her years. But it's getting tired of waiting for us to remember how to listen. Luna is a messenger, a bridge between their world and ours. As if in confirmation, Luna rose to her feet, stretching as if awakening from a long sleep. Her movements were fluid, confident, not the behavior of a captive animal, but of a wild being making choices. She padded to the laboratory door, then looked back at Willow expectantly. She wants to go home, Willow said simply, to show me the forest through her eyes, to help me learn the old language better so I can teach others. And if we refuse? Hammond asked, though her tone suggested she already knew the answer. The forest has been very patient, Willow repeated, a subtle warning beneath her childish voice. But even the oldest trees can fall in a storm. Outside, as if summoned by her words, thunder rolled across the distant mountains. The weather system that had been forecast as a mild autumn rain was gathering strength, dark clouds massing above the research facility with unnatural speed. Hammond's phone buzzed with an incoming text. She glanced at it, her composed expression faltering slightly. My team at the perimeter reports the wolves have returned, all of them, and they're waiting. A decision hung in the balance, one that would determine not just the fate of a child and a wolf pup, but potentially the relationship between humanity and the natural world. Years of scientific hubris and separation from nature had led to this moment of reckoning, where ancient truths were reasserting themselves through the most unlikely of messengers. In that moment of suspended choice, Luna let out a soft howl, not of aggression or fear, but of calling, of belonging. An invitation extended across the divide of species, asking humans to remember what they had forgotten. And outside, in perfect harmony, the wolves of the forest answered.